I'm on my own, broken alone. I feel the rain crash.
In our first ever production workshop, we learned how to set up a tripod and attach the camera. Once the camera was in place, we were taught about various important details to do with the lens and shots, for example exposure, and that if the shot is underexposed, it is easier to revert it to normal than if it is overexposed. However, if the shot is unfocused, it will be unfocused forever. To avoid these problems, we were shown how to adjust the colour and exposure on the camera called white balance. Colour has a significant effect on the camera shot, as yellow and orange lighting can make it look eerie or misplaced. Or you can revert to more natural blues and greens, which can work better if you're outside. In our second session, we learned about the 180-degree rule, also known as the crossing the line rule. It is one of the only rules you have to follow in filmmaking, and it is very important. The line is put on the floor, and for our example, it went between the two people having a conversation. They were looking opposite each other and speaking. Once you start filming, you can go anywhere on that side of the line, however you cannot cross the line, otherwise when you edit it, the people will be looking in the same direction and this is wrong. You never want your actor to be centre of the shot because it looks awkward. You should have your camera on their level, eye level, or if you're filming their feet, don't just tilt the camera, you should put the camera on the ground. The rule of thirds works best when there's an action happening on screen or the actor has to reach for something in front of them. We also learned the language you say before filming, such as stand by, roll camera, rolling, and cut. We didn't start editing until sessions 3 and 4. In these sessions we learned about cause and effect editing, which is basically cutting the sequence as imagined. It is very simple and very effective and is used all the time in real films. We also learned how to edit the short clips we had made the day before, using many new techniques and terminology. The software we used on the Mac was Adobe Premiere Pro, which is an expert program used to edit many Hollywood films. Some new terminology and techniques we learned were a bin, rushes, we logged the footage, and when we were editing the clips we used trim handles, also keys I and O for in and out of our sequences. In session 5 and 6 we learned to develop a short sequence and write a script. The sequence included 2 characters who had a short exchange. It gave us more of a taste of editing as our test shoot was the next day and it was very important to practice. Ella and myself acted in the sequence. Our group used the studio and Maddie and Anastasia were in charge of filming. From previous sessions with Matt we had learned about rules on set. We were able to follow these, such as the 180-degree rule, which we had to think about a lot to make sure our video would look right. We also needed to make sure that we didn't use continuity when handing over the object. Our main problem we experienced was once we saw our edited footage, our shots were very dark. There is sadly nothing we could do about this, but now we can understand and use exposure correctly next time. I think the test shoot was a really good process because we ended up using a lot of similar shots in our real sequence, such as bird's eye, extreme close-ups, and we put the camera on the floor to film the footsteps. Other means that helped with production was props, locations, set design, and all of the necessary changes which came with those. We also shot a storyboard which really helped map out the exact shots we would do so that it wouldn't waste time when editing. Before I knew practically nothing about filming or editing a sequence, and through the workshops I have gained so much knowledge in these areas. I found editing much harder than production, and I think this was because there was more to remember and not as straightforward as filming. I could use all that I had learned in these workshops in my finished sequence, and I am in a much more advanced position now than I ever was before.